Hello.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good
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 afternoon,
afternoon,
sir.
sir.
afternoon.
How are
Salam.
you, sir?
Salam. So, what is the status of other unit that Dr. Asif Akhtar was taking up? So, regarding this unit on statistics, probability and probability distribution, which I have engaged a few sessions in a large group, large in the sense that in addition to our four MBA students, we were also having the IMA MU PhD batch, fresh batch. So there I engaged, I think, four sessions on this statistics and probability, and maybe that we need what I thought that we need a few more sessions for you especially. So today I will take up from the beginning. I will take up from the beginning in the sense that we will just do those topics or subtopics which we have done during those sessions quickly, and then I will be, your questions and queries will be welcome. So let me share my screen with, I repeat, those who have joined late, that I have, this session is about the unit on statistics, probability and probability distributions. And a few sessions on this topic I have already engaged with the larger group, which included the IMA PhD batch also, along with the four MBA group that we had. So, for the benefit of all of you, I'm just repeating some of the things, the basic things, and then we will discuss if there are more questions on that. Now, let me. Now, tell me if my screen is visible to you.
Yes, sir, it is
Yes,
visible.
sir, it is
Yes, sir,
visible.
it
Yes,
is
sir,
visible.
visible.
Good. Okay. Okay. So, am I audible?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
And and screen is also visible.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
This was the starting point that statistics is basically collection, tabulation, processing, interpretation, inference, storage, reporting of data. Everything is included in this science. Statistics is defined as a science like any other subject. Say we have physics, we have mathematics, we have chemistry. Similarly, statistics as such is a full-fledged subject which uh, which talks about collection of data, its tabulation, its processing. Processing means analysis. Its interpretation, conclusion that we draw, how to store the data, reporting. All these things are included in this subject statistics. But here we have just one unit in your quantitative paper. Out of 5 units, we have one unit on statistics. So only uh, the basic part, or you can say the preliminary or the prerequisites, will be dealt with in this unit. And some of the things you will study in your second semester when you study research methodology paper. So, and also the second point which you can see on the screen is that why do we need statistics? The knowledge of statistics help us in decision making. Uh, when decision making means scientific judgments, as you must have done by now, as you must have done by now, that decision making is a scientific, systematic, or step by step procedure. And by decision making, we mean that we have a certain situation, or you can say the word problem, but I would prefer to use the word situation rather than problem, because problem का थोड़ा conception ये है. Problem means something जो शायद जिसका कोई solution नहीं है या दिक्कत है. So a situation. So when you face a situation where you want to make a decision, and that decision making depends on the present parameters of the situation, the the chances that may occur in the future, because decisions are made for future. So therefore decision making involves the knowledge of existing conditions, existing situation, and also we should have knowledge of alternatives, or the actions which are possible, which may take. So, depending on the existing situation and the available solutions or available options, we make a decision, we decide something. And since, as I just told you, decision making is for future, which is not certain. There are uncertainty involves in in future. Therefore, statistics, particularly that part that we are going to discuss, the probability and its application, that helps decision maker in estimating those uncertainties or the risk involved for future. And therefore, this knowledge of statistics, knowledge of probability, and other relevant concepts helps decision maker in making scientific or or objective decisions with estimation of uncertainties or risk for future, and that estimation is done using probability. So this is just a broad overview of what is statistics as a subject, and what do we do, and how does it help in management. So some terminology will be discussing population sample, because many times you, right now you might have seen till yesterday this exit polls, and everywhere it was being talked about sample. What were the sample size? What sample we have collected? Similarly, a lot of discussion was going on during the last 2 years on COVID related issues, either vaccine or its effectiveness or positivity or negativity or recovery rate. So many things were being discussed. And again, you must have observed that everywhere they were talking about sample. एक example लिया ये sample size था इतने लोगों का sample लिया. So on that basis those figures again, what we call here also statistics, that were available to us. So a sample is basically a smaller representative group or portion of a larger group, larger portion which we are studying. And that larger group is referred to as population. You can see, for example, here, if we say all final year MBA students or first year कह दीजिए, all first year MBA students of FMSR admitted in the session 1920, 2021, 2022, whatever. सो अगर आप सबकी बात करें, फॉर एग्जांपल ऑल फर्स्ट ईयर स्टूडेंट्स ऑफ एफएमएसआर एडमिटेड इन द सेशन 21-22, तो वी हैव एन इनटेक ऑफ 120. अगर आप चारों एमबीए प्रोग्राम्स को ऐड कर दें तो वी हैव एन इनटेक ऑफ 120. तो किसी स्टडी को कंडक्ट करने के लिए, और 120 you can consider for final year. So how many total students we will be having at a given point of time?
So around 480.
Sorry?
So if we consider the previous, so if we consider we don't consider the previous one, then approximately around 480. But if we consider the final year student as well as the first year student, and around 240 or 245.
Correct. 240. Say 120 plus 120. So there are 240 students enrolled at a given point of time in the Department of Business Administration. Now, if you want to conduct some study on anything, means on infrastructure, on curriculum, on education, placement, anything, teaching, facility, etc. So there are two methods. One is that we contact all 140 students, 240 students, and then some report is presented by overall what has been the percentage of students who have liked something, who have not liked something, who want this thing, who don't want this thing. So if you are considering that 240 students, so this may be referred to as a population. But if we take out of 240, we consider, okay, we take a few students from final year, few students from first year, and those few include male and female, and those few also include student from MBA, MBIB, MBHA, MBIBF. So that smaller group of, say for example, 40 out of 240 we have taken, or say 60, just 1/4. So 60 will consist of first year students, second year students, male students, female students, MBA students, MBIB students, MBIBF, and MBHA students. So that 60 will be a representative group of all students enrolled at a given point of time in the department. So instead of studying or analyzing or contacting or asking question from all 240, what we have done, we have collected a sample of 60 students which represent every characteristic of that population. So that is what we mean by a sample and a population. Then another thing that you should have an idea about descriptive and inferential statistics. So by descriptive we mean, for example, if you need to answer this question, what is the average salary of FMSR students who have been placed in 2021? अब फिर इसमें क्या करेंगे, हमारे पास 120 लड़के थे, क्योंकि नाउ वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट प्लेसमेंट. So we will not be talking about 240. We are talking about one particular session 2021, and only final year graduates are placed, not first year. So that means we are talking about if we can take a data of 120 students who have been placed at different places, we find out their salaries. Okay, what was the package for student number one, student number two, and so on, and then we have uh, uh, the average of that. So that question may be answered like this. But now look at the second bulleted point here. Is pay package offered related with final percentage in MBA? So these two questions which you can see on the screen are different in nature. The first one is answered on the basis of the data that we have. We can find out not 120, उसमें से भी एक सैंपल ड्रॉ कर सकते हैं और उसका एवरेज हम लेके बता सकते हैं व्हाट इज द एवरेज ऑफ सैलरी. ये हुआ डिस्क्रिप्टिव. हमारे पास एक पॉपुलेशन थी, उसका एक सैंपल था, उसके एक कैरेक्टरिस्टिक हमने डिस्क्राइब करने की कोशिश की. So that could be average salary, that could be average height, that could be average in IQ, any other thing, any other parameter characteristics of that sample. So that is what we mean by descriptive. Uh, what we do, we gain an insight through descriptive analysis. We gain an insight into the phenomena. फॉर एग्जाम्पल इन दिस केस हम एक पे पैकेज की बात कर रहे हैं, तो पे पैकेज का हम निकाल सकते हैं कि एवरेज सैलरी कितनी थी या स्टैंडर्ड डेविएशन कितना था, जिसको हम सेकंड पॉइंट सेंटर टेंडेंसी डिस्पर्शन कह रहे हैं. पैटर्न ऑफ डाटा कैसा था, मिसाल के तौर पे हमारे 120 स्टूडेंट्स में से कितने लोग बैंक में गए, कितने लोग व्हाट परसेंटेज वर प्लेस्ड इन बैंक्स, व्हाट परसेंटेज प्लेस्ड इन मैन्युफैक्चरिंग सेक्टर, व्हाट students placed in, what percent of students placed in some other sector, and so on. So that is description in terms of some statistics. इसी तरह से उसको ग्राफिकल रिप्रेजेंटेशन से हम कर सकते हैं. ग्राफिकल रिप्रेजेंटेशन से मतलब ये हुआ कि अगर हम इस तरह की बात करें, अभी आप आज पूरे दिन इस तरह की चीज़ देख रहे होंगे टेलीविजन पे. So all statistics are being presented in graphical form. कहीं परसेंटेज में आज throughout the day you can see about this counting and results coming out for 5 states assembly election. So all TV channel they will be using these charts or percentage कि किस पार्टी को लास्ट असेंबली इलेक्शन के हिसाब से कितना कितना परसेंट गेन हुआ, कितना परसेंट लॉस हुआ, माइनस हुआ, प्लस हुआ, कास्ट वाइज क्या हुआ, रिलीजन वाइज क्या हुआ, पार्टी वाइज क्या हुआ, स्टेट वाइज क्या हुआ. ऑल दोज थिंग्स दे आर डिस्क्रिप्टिव. इससे हमको पूरे रिजल्ट्स के बाद वी आर नॉट इन द पोजिशन टू इन्फर समथिंग फॉर फ्यूचर or for the entire group. What has been done, that is being analyzed and presented. That is what we mean by descriptive analysis, descriptive statistics. So that we can do in the form of either graphical representation like this, all these things. बार चार्ट, हिस्टोग्राम, पाई चार्ट, या इस तरह के हम किसी टेबुलर फॉर्म में कर सकते हैं. जो अभी now you can see descriptive analysis on the screen. This is a rough raw data which we also called scattered data, and the data represents life of 14 similar car batteries in years. 2.2 years, 3.4 years, यानी कि आपने how much 1 2 14 batteries. There is a manufacturing battery manufacturing system from where a sample of 14 has been taken and we have noted their life. So 2.2 years, 3.4 years, 2.5 years, ये 14 बैटरीज की इंडिविजुअल लाइफ हमने नोट कर ली. अब इसको दिस इज रॉ डाटा. इससे किसी तरह का कोई आपका अंडरस्टैंडिंग या कोई स्टैटिस्टिक्स या कोई रिजल्ट निकल के इस तरह से नहीं आ रहा है, क्योंकि ये सिर्फ 14 था. तो यू कैन डू समथिंग विद दिस, बट if it is 140, for example, 140 such data points, you will not be able to infer anything out of this. तो उसके लिए क्या करते हैं कि हमको डाटा को टेबुलेट करना है या आगे प्रोसेस करने के लिए. तो उस टेबुलेशन का सिंपलेस्ट तरीका होता है डाटा एरे, विच इज आइदर डिसेंडिंग ऑर्डर या असेंडिंग ऑर्डर में इसको हम अरेंज कर लें. Another way of tabulating this may be in the form of frequency distribution, which you can see on the screen. कि जितने आपके इंडिविजुअल पॉइंट्स थे 2.2, 2.5, 3.1, 3.4, यहाँ से जितने थे इनको नोट कर लिया. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9. 9 क्यों है? Why not 14 here? The first life. There are 14 batteries, the sample of 14 batteries, but here you can see only 9. Why?
So because of repetition.
Yes, because of repetition. So that's why what does this second row mean? Means frequency. How many times one particular value is repeating. So 2.2, one battery, 2.5, one battery, 3.1, two batteries, and so on. So this is frequency distribution. This is a form of ungrouped or discrete. Why ungrouped? Because these are individual years or individual lives, you can see, not in groups. If you look at this one, this becomes grouped frequency distribution. Why group? Now we have grouped those from 2.2 to 4.7. This range we have grouped like this, for example, 2.2 to 3, 3.1 to 3.9, and 4 years to 4.7. अब हमने यहाँ ये frequency note की. How many batteries out of this 14 they fall in this category where their lives has been from 2.2 years to 3 years. So there are two batteries. You can see 2.2 एक ये है और up to 3 ये दो batteries यहाँ fall करेंगी. 3.1 to 3.9 there are 9 batteries, and 4 years to 4.7 years there are 3 batteries. So in all 14 batteries. So this is frequency distribution. So first and second column, they represent frequency distribution group type, and this represents frequency distribution ungrouped type or discrete. We can also find midpoints of these classes. Relative frequency, relative in the sense this is 2 out of 14. Here it is 9 out of 14, 3 out of 14, and so on. So all these things, they are descriptive part. You have collected a data from a population through a sample, and you are analyzing in different form. So that is what we mean by descriptive. And measures of central tendency and dispersion. In case of this, we measure mean हो सकता है, median, mode. यहाँ सिंबल हमने दिए. सैंपल का अगर मीन है तो एक्स बार से रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं, और पूरे पॉपुलेशन का मीन है तो म्यू से करते हैं. जैसे अभी इफ यू गो बैक टू दिस, व्हाट इज द एवरेज सैलरी, तो अगर पूरे 120 लोगों का हमने पूरा 120 मीन्स there are 120 students who are graduating every year. So similarly in 2021 also 120 are graduating. If they are all placed, we can note down their salary, find out its average, then it will be what? It will be population mean, क्योंकि हमारी पूरी population ही 120 की थी, so that will be represented by mu. But if out of 20 we just take, say for example, 25 students, representative group, and find their average, then their average will be represented by x bar. Similarly, dispersion is indicated through measures like range, standard deviation, and variance. The standard deviation of a sample is calculated using this formula, where x is individual units, x bar is the mean of the sample, and n is the number of samples. अगर आपको यहाँ बैटरी वाली से निकालना हो तो what is n here? In this example, what is n? What is the value of n?
14.
14.
And
14.
x are 2.2 is x1, 3.4 is x2, 2.5 is x3. So there are 14 x values, and there will be one x bar. इसका जो भी एवरेज आया होगा, मैंने कैलकुलेट तो नहीं किया है, say 3 years for example, say 3 years. So it will be 2.2 minus 3, 3.4 minus 3, 2.5 minus 3, 3.4 minus 3 एंड सो ऑन, और इसीलिए यहाँ इसको स्क्वायर करते हैं, क्योंकि ये दिस माइनस दिस विल बी समटाइम्स पॉजिटिव समटाइम्स नेगेटिव, तो नेगेटिव को स्क्वायर करेंगे तो भी वो पॉजिटिव होगी, एंड देन वी ऐड देम ऑल डिवाइडेड बाय 14 minus 1, so that will be your sample standard deviation. Anyway, okay, so this was about descriptive analysis or descriptive statistics. But if we go one step ahead, now we want to know, is pay package offered to our students related with their final percentage or grade point, CGPA, जो भी उसको कहिए, in MBA. अब अगर इस तरह का कोई चीज़ हम स्टडी करना चाहते हैं और उसमें से हमने फिर 120 में से या पिछले 5 साल का डाटा कलेक्ट कर लिया, तो 120 into 5 उतने लोगों में से एक सैंपल ड्रॉ किया और उनकी 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 CGPA नोट करी और उनका पे पैकेज नोट किया, और फिर कोई स्टैटिस्टिकल टेस्ट लगा के हमने फाइंड आउट किया, इस पे पैकेज ऑफर्ड रिलेटेड विद फाइनल परसेंटेज इन MBA. सो दिस विल बी एन इन्फ्रेंशियल टाइप ऑफ एनालिसिस और इन्फ्रेंशियल स्टैटिस्टिक्स, क्योंकि हम यहाँ जो कुछ कंक्लूड करेंगे वो पूरे MBA के लिए कर रहे हैं, फॉर द एंटायर पॉपुलेशन, and that will be some sort of relationship between 2 or more variables. क्या वेरिएबल हुए इसमें, एक तो पे पैकेज और एक उनका फाइनल ईयर का परसेंटेज या ओवरऑल परसेंटेज, जो भी हमारा वेरिएबल हो. सो दैट इज व्हाट वी अंडरस्टैंड बाय inferential, where we infer something on the basis of this or hypothesis. Coming to data, there are two broad categories of data. One on the basis of time of collection, there we call them as primary and secondary, and the second one is on the basis of the nature of the data, there we call them as discrete or continuous. So discrete or continuous data, it depends on what is the measurement scale. कुछ चीज़ें discrete स्केल पे मेजर होती हैं, जैसे हम ये कहें कि मेल और फीमेल, तो ये डिस्क्रीट हुआ, आइदर मेल और फीमेल. या हम कहें कि MBA students are BCom qualification, means qualification is the variable, and their responses are BCom, BTech, BA, BSc and so on. They are all qualitative type of data, they are not continuous. लेकिन अगर हम ये बात करें आपकी परसेंटेज ग्रेजुएशन में क्या थी, तो 0 से लेके 100 तक कुछ भी वैल्यू हो सकती है, इवन इन डेसिमल्स. सो दैट इज continuous variable. So data are continuous. Primary and secondary is with reference to the time of collection. If you are collecting your data first hand, that will be your primary data. But if similar data is available in literature, in magazines, newspapers, in other sources, जो annual reports होती हैं companies की, balance sheet है, if you are using that data which is already available, which was collected by someone else, by some agency, and now you are using for your research, then it becomes secondary data. Again, just to conclude, descriptive analysis answers question like this: average life of the car batteries manufactured by the company. Inferential analysis answer question like this: whether the average life of the car batteries manufactured by the company exceeds 3 years. Are the car batteries of company XYZ more durable than the batteries of company ABC? ये इस तरह के क्वेश्चन का आंसर देंगे तो इन्फ्रेंशियल एनालिसिस होगा, और ऊपर वाले टाइप के क्वेश्चन का आंसर होगा तो दैट विल बी डिस्क्रिप्टिव एनालिसिस. सो ये बेसिक स्टैटिस्टिक्स का जितना आपको ज़रूरत है, तो दैट if you have any question till now, then ask. So that was just a revision of some basic terminology or understanding or concept in statistics, which will be useful here also, and then in your research methodology paper in your second semester. So any question up to this point?
No,
Okay.
sir.
Now we are coming to the, one of the main topics in this unit, probability related concept. ये सारी चीजें हम उस दिन भी कर चुके हैं, लेकिन maybe that what I thought that I should brush up again uh, in your benefit. So probability we have defined as a numerical measure of the likelihood that a particular event will occur when an idealized experiment is performed. So the terms that we are using here include idealized experiment. I have explained by idealized experiment in statistics we mean that some activity where the outcomes are known, जिसकी बहुत पॉपुलर एग्जांपल हम देते हैं टॉसिंग ए फेयर कॉइन. तो टॉसिंग ए कॉइन इज एन एक्सपेरिमेंट इन स्टैटिस्टिक्स. इन स्टैटिस्टिकल टर्मिनोलॉजी any activity is called an experiment. By idealize we mean that we know the possible outcomes in advance. जब हम टॉस करते हैं कॉइन को, हमको पता है कि या तो हेड होगा या टेल होगा, वो आइडियलाइज हुआ. लेकिन अगर कोई कॉइन ऐसा है जिसमें हमको लगे कि नहीं ये कोई और ऑप्शन भी हो सकता है, तो दैट एक्सपेरिमेंट इज नॉट एन आइडियलाइज एक्सपेरिमेंट. तो आउटकम आपको पता होते हैं. और फेयर कॉइन जब हम यूज करते हैं एडजेक्टिव, आप न्यूमेरिकल देखेंगे स्टैटिस्टिक्स में दैट विद कॉइन वी यूज अ फेयर कॉइन. सो उस फेयर का सिर्फ मीनिंग ये है कि देयर इज आइदर हेड और टेल, इट विल नॉट स्टैंड ऑन इट्स एज when it is tossed. So that is what we mean by fair. And idealized means कि उस outcome आपको पता है. If you appear in an examination, what are the results? Either you fail or you pass. So that is an idealized experiment. Uncertainty उसमें पास होंगे या फेल होंगे ये पता तो नहीं है, या पास होने की प्रोबेबिलिटी फेल होने की प्रोबेबिलिटी आप कैलकुलेट कर सकते हैं, लेकिन ऑप्शन दो ही है वो पता है. Either you will pass or you will fail. So that is idealized experiment. Mutually exclusive events means those events which cannot occur together. Again, head and tail can't occur together. Pass and fail will not occur together, and so on. Equally likely, अगर सिर्फ दो events हैं, दो outcomes possible हैं एक experiment के, then they are equally likely. In for example, head and tail, they are equally likely. लेकिन pass और fail में it's not necessary they are equally likely. आपकी अपनी स्टडी पे, आपके अपने बहुत सारे फैक्टर्स हैं ऑन विच इट डिपेंड्स कि आपके उस पेपर में पास होने की प्रोबेबिलिटी क्या है, फेल होने की प्रोबेबिलिटी क्या है. वहाँ ज़रूरी नहीं है कि हम, ऑप्शन तो दो हैं पास और फेल होना, लेकिन दोज टू आउटकम्स आर इक्वली लाइकली, दैट इज नॉट नेसेसरी. बट इन केस ऑफ हेड एंड टेल they are mutually exclusive as well as equally likely, because there is no possibility कि head आने के chances ज़्यादा हो या tail आने के chances ज़्यादा हो when you toss a coin. A sample space is a set or collection. Set is a scientific term, set theory से आता है set, and collection आप simple term में कह सकते हैं. So sample space is a collection of all possible outcomes of an idealized experiment. The first one you can see, head and tail. So sample space denoted by S, with, and this collection of possible outcomes are written separated by comma within a bracket like this. S, this is another one. Can anyone tell this is the sample space of which experiment?
Dice.
So die.
Nice.
Throw a single dice.
The third one is the sample space of an experiment. Which experiment? Some
the bulb.
inspection, some inspection, some testing. Right? So the item which you are testing may be found either defective or non-defective. Now, becoming a more complicated or more mathematical, the next one is where you don't have these definite numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then you can denote it like this. Sample space denoted by x, where x is a positive integer. Ab ye, it can be any number. but it has to be positive integer. It can be 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like this. Or another way, this could be another sample space where we have defined t in terms of t, where t is 0 or more. Again, it can be any number, and this time it could be a fraction also. It's like it is 0 or more than 0. Whole number होना जरूरी नहीं है. So this is how we represent a sample space. Coming to these two basic laws, as you all know, the probability of something is greater than or equal to 0 and less than or equal to 1. It ranges from 0 to 1 only. It cannot be negative, it cannot exceed 1. 1 means here 100%. तो किसी चीज के अकर होने का लाइक्लीहुड या चांस जो है वो 100% से ज्यादा नहीं हो सकता. हम लोग कहते हैं, कभी कभी आपने सुना होगा कि आई एम 200% श्योर. सो व्हाट डज दैट मीन? बोलते हैं ना कभी कभी ऐसा.
Yes, sir.
200%.
So you double sure.
तो वो एक बिलीफ को एक्सप्रेस करते हैं. यस, एक अपने बिलीफ को अपने कॉन्फिडेंस को एक्सप्रेस करने का एक एडजेक्टिव है, दैट्स ऑल. Otherwise, mathematically, it is 100%. Anyway, the sum of the probabilities for all outcomes of an experiment must be equal to
1.
1. Head occurrence is 50%, probability of tail is 50%. So therefore, the sum is 1. So it is a must. And it is a must means, again, if you refer back to this one, idealized experiment, you will know that अगर आपको सारे आउटकम पता नहीं होंगे तब फिर ये 1 नहीं हो सकता. This will be 1 only when you know all the outcomes, possible outcomes of an experiment. उनकी सबकी probabilities को अगर हम ऐड कर देंगे, मिसाल के तौर पे, if we consider say 4 political parties who have been in election, say UP election, BJP, Congress, SP and BSP, for example. So probability of BJP winning is this much, probability of Congress winning is this. Winning means say majority, कोई भी चीज आप उसको consider कर ले, और forming government को consider कर ले. BJP forming government probability is this much. Congress forming government probability is this much. SP forming government probability is this much, and BSP forming government probability is this much. We are not considering means their alliance or independent. We are considering these 4. So these 4 probabilities, the sum of these 4 probabilities should be
So 1.
1, because we are considering only these 4 possible outcomes. Either this party forms the government or this or this. We are ignoring the other options like 2 parties together or with the help of independent and so on. So if we are considering only 4 parties as the outcome, then the probabilities of forming government by these 4 parties, their sum must be equal to 1. अगर ये 1 नहीं हो रहा, it means there is something left out of the sample space. तो यहाँ sample space अगर हम S को represent करें, S is a sample space of forming a government, तो उसमें क्या यहाँ पे आएगा? What will be the set of this sample space?
Names of different parties.
Yes, names of 4 political party that we are discussing. So उसमें BJP, Congress, SP, BSP. That will be a set of these 4 political parties. There is nothing out of that. And this is how we can approach estimation of these probabilities, either using classical method, relative frequency method or subjective method. So subjective method की बात तो अभी हो रही थी कि a person's degree of belief. अभी बगैर if you don't go by exit poll, if you don't go by the results which are coming, counting result, इसके बगैर अगर कोई ये कहना चाहे कि which party is going to win, which party is going to form the government, or which candidate is going to win from Aligarh and so on, without those things, means just on the basis of the situation, the mood of the public, and the past and the present, without calculation, on the basis of data, of course, on the basis of the knowledge, on the basis of the experience, but without any calculation, that it is subjective method. Relative frequency method, number of occurrences of that event out of number of times. तो अगर लास्ट 5 years का हम लास्ट 25 years का डाटा देखें यूपी असेंबली इलेक्शंस का, और हम उसमें देखें कि अच्छा कितने टाइम्स एसपी जीत चुकी है, 5 बार इलेक्शन हुआ 25 साल में, तो क्या चांस है इस बात की, अगर अदर फैक्टर्स को हम इग्नोर करें. सो दैट इज व्हाट रिलेटिव फ्रीक्वेंसी मेथड मीन. एंड बाय क्लासिकल मेथड वी मीन प्रोबेबिलिटी ऑफ a particular party forming a government, that is A. It will be A divided by A plus B, where A is
number of favorable outcomes.
Number of favorable outcomes, and B is number of favorable outcomes. मिसाल के तौर पे ये हुआ कि अगर एक पार्टी को गवर्नमेंट फॉर्म करना है, उसके लिए कितनी सीट्स चाहिए, अगर उतनी आती हैं वो फेवरेबल है, उतनी नहीं आती हैं तो उसके चांस वो अनफेवरेबल है. सो दैट विल बी योर क्लासिकल मेथड. फर्दर इसको एक बार दूसरे एग्जाम्पल से भी हम देखेंगे. These are the basic relationships which we use in statistics or probability calculations. One is probability of A plus probability of non-A, A complement. That again 1. अभी हमने देखा कि if अगर A को हम कहें कि what is the P, A is the A means Congress, for example. Probability of Congress forming the government plus probability of Congress not forming government, ये कितना होना चाहिए?
So 1.
1 sir.
AC में क्या क्या आया फिर?
Winning
अगर
the election by other party.
अगर if A is Congress, what is AC then?
So
The party is
possibility of
A.
not forming the
minus A.
government. 1
Yes,
minus PA.
So AC is SP, BSP and BJP. ठीक? If A is Congress and there are 4 parties, so AC will mean all those 3 parties. Now, A union B. A union B means if you talk about, say, Congress and BJP, for example. A is Congress and B is BJP. What is the probability that the government will be formed by Congress or BJP? That means probability of Congress alone making government, probability of this, और probability दोनों मिलके बनाने की, तो इसको हम माइनस कर देंगे ए जॉइंट ऑकरेंस का. So that is P A union B, probability of either A occurs or B occurs. With the help of this diagram, if you look at this, this is Venn diagram. This circle represents A, this circle represents B. So there are, say, 10 seats, 8 plus 2. ये दो ऐसी सीट हैं तो कॉमन है between the 2 parties. For example, 8 is only A. And what does this 4 mean?
So
Only
B.
B.
B only.
B.
But
Only B.
if we say B, then it will be 6. If we say B only, then it will be 4. If we say A, it will be 10. If we say A only, then it will be 8. So 2 is the intersection. So A union B therefore is PA. Total कितना हुआ ये?
14.
20.
So 4.
8 plus 4 plus 6.
So 20.
20.
16.
ठीक है? So PA will be 10 by 20. PA will be 10 by 20. 20 is total. And probability of B will be
So
6 by
6 by
20.
20.
6 by 20. लेकिन ये दो क्योंकि आपने इसमें भी यूज किया था और इसमें भी यूज किया था,
Sir, 6 by 18.
इसलिए हमने यहाँ से इसको माइनस कर दिया. यू कैन सी, यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड फ्रॉम दिस डायग्राम. ये दो को हमने दो बार काउंट कर लिया ना, एक बार 10 में काउंट किया था, एक बार 6 में काउंट किया. इसको just to explain, means इस term को I am just trying to explain this term why this is minus this one. So this is A union B is basically this thing. So P, A or B, this is read as probability of either A or B or probability of A or B. Then it will be PA plus PP minus P joint occurrence. If these circles are separated, there is no common point, common intersection, then this component becomes 0. Means अगर A और B mutually exclusive events हैं जिनका कोई portion common नहीं हो सकता, तो ये third term will become 0. Now otherwise this A and B, this is called AND, this is called OR. So this is your mathematical operator for OR, and this is your mathematical operator for AND. Probability of A and B, then it is a product of both probabilities. So Venn diagram, and this is another graphical representation of outcomes. Outcomes of what? Tree diagram. The probability when a coin is tossed twice, you can see. If there is any question, please ask. Otherwise, we have discussed this also earlier. I hope it is clear to all of you.
Yes, sir.
So from here, you can understand that these are the four outcomes possible: head and head, head and tail and head, tail and tail. उनकी ये probabilities आ गई. इनका चारों का sum आप देखिए, it will be 1. और अगर A by B से निकालना चाहें probability of two heads, तो इन चार में से सिर्फ एक आउटकम ऐसा है जो favorable है to having two heads. तो इसलिए small a is 1. Small a is 1 if you are talking about probability of two heads. So how many outcomes are favorable to two heads?
1.
1. इसलिए कि इसके अलावा और कहीं two head नहीं है. और how many are unfavorable? 3. So it is again 1 divided by 4, which is 25%. Probability of two heads is 25%. From here also you can see probability of two heads is 25%. Statistically dependent independent events like this. Marginal means the probability of A, and joint means probability of A and B joint occurrence. Conditional means probability of B when A has occurred or probability of A when B has occurred, जो भी इनका sequence हो. ये है statistically independent situation में. और ये है statistically dependent events अगर है, यानी कि A और B statistically dependent है. तो ये सब फॉर्मूले आपके पास लिखे भी होने चाहिए, सिर्फ स्क्रीन पे देख के नहीं होगा, because you will be using this formula for so I'm still connected. There was I lost connection just for a few seconds. Okay, so you can see and you can hear me. both.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Uh, so this is you must I mean note down all these things somewhere so that मैं I will repeat कि you should take your notes जहाँ भी जिस क्लास में भी हो. मैंने शायद पहले भी बात बताई होगी कि सिर्फ ये इस खास तौर से इस तरह के पेपर आप सिर्फ स्क्रीन पे देख के नहीं होंगे. Now, a bag contains 2 white and 4 black balls. 2 balls are drawn at random, one after the other. एक केस है जिसमें with replacement, दूसरा केस में without replacement. What is the probability that both are white? कैसे कैलकुलेट करेंगे? पार्ट ए. A bag contains 2 white and 4 black balls. 2 balls are drawn at random, one after the other. What is the probability that both are white? With replacement means we have drawn a ball, note कर लिया उसको, and then put it back. So that is what we mean by with replacement. Second means second draw के लिए how many balls we will be having?
6.
In first draw also there were 6 balls, 2 white and 4 black. सेकेंड ड्रॉ में भी 6 ही होंगी क्योंकि विद रिप्लेसमेंट, यानी कि जो बॉल आई थी उसको वापस आपने कंटेनर में रख दिया. अब दोबारा निकाला तो पहले वाला नोट कर लिया था हमने, व्हाइट आया था, ब्लैक आया था. अब दूसरा वाला फिर. नाउ इज सेकेंड ड्रॉ डिपेंडेंट ऑन फर्स्ट ड्रॉ इन द फर्स्ट केस?
No.
No, sir.
No, sir.
So that is statistically independent. पहले में व्हाइट था या ब्लैक था, दूसरे राउंड में उसके व्हाइट या ब्लैक आने की प्रोबेबिलिटी पे कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा, इसलिए कि वो आपने रिप्लेस कर दिया था. अगेन यू हैव दोस 6 बॉल्स इन द सेम प्रोपोर्शन, 2 white and 4 black. So that becomes an example of statistically independent trials, यानी कि जिस तरह से हेड और टेल में होता है, पहला टॉस किया हेड और टेल, दूसरा टॉस करेंगे तो पहले में whether it was head or tail, it has no influence on the probability of occurrence of head or tail in the second trial. So those two trials are statistically independent. Here also these two draws are statistically independent because you have replaced what you have drawn in your first trial or first sample. But second is without replacement. In first case, you have 4 balls, 2 white and 4 black. So whatever you have got in the first trial, you are not putting it back into the container. So for the second trial, how many balls are left? 5. And you don't know, I mean, in what proportion. It could be 2 plus 3 or it could be
1 plus 4.
1 plus 4.
1 plus
1
4.
plus 4.
So that is an example of statistically dependent. अब क्योंकि आपने वापस नहीं की, अब सेकंड चांस में व्हाइट या ब्लैक बॉल आने की प्रोबेबिलिटी अब चेंज हो गई. इंडिपेंडेंटली कितना है? 2/6 और व्हाइट की प्रोबेबिलिटी 2/6 एंड ब्लैक की प्रोबेबिलिटी 4/6.
4/6.
लेकिन सेकंड पार्ट बी पार्ट में ये सेकंड टाइम में चेंज हो जाएगा. So now you can look here. ठीक है, ये इंडिपेंडेंट हुआ. सॉरी, इट शुड बी 3/6. नहीं, व्हाइट की, ठीक है, व्हाइट की प्रोबेबिलिटी दोनों में 2/6 हुई. एम आई राइट?
Yes, sir.
व्हाइट,
Yes, sir.
हमको व्हाइट निकालना है ना. व्हाट इज द प्रोबेबिलिटी बोथ आर व्हाइट? तो पहले व्हाइट की प्रोबेबिलिटी कितनी है? 2/6. दूसरे व्हाइट की प्रोबेबिलिटी भी
2/6.
2/6.